Welcome and happy Valentine's Day to everybody. February 14th, 2024 for our monthly refresher webinar. Great to see you all here. And hope you got through that snowstorm okay. Good mindfulness practice, right? When we are encountered with things that are not so pleasant, depending on your point of view, maybe for some of you they are pleasant, the snow. I'm sure the kids enjoyed it. But so anyways, today we're going to be talking about focus. If you recall, I'm going to use the flashlight image. And then we're also going to go into connection and compassion because it is Valentine's Day. And we'll talk a little bit about heart breathing and a loving kindness segment to the second meditation. So let's get right into it. First question, where is your attention now? You know, I think for many of us, we multitask. So where is your attention right now? Just turn inward. This is a quick pause exercise. And just notice what's going on in the mind. What thoughts are present? What's your emotional state? How's the body doing? Check in with the body. What body sensations are predominant? Do you notice any connection between thoughts, emotions, and body sensations? Just all as a way to kind of focus in on where your attention is right now. And then before we end this quick pause, let's do a couple of cycles of breathing. So you can start with a deep breath or two to really feel the breath. Long inhale, long, slow exhale. In and out, feeling the sensations of your breathing. And then just let your breath resume its natural rhythm. And we'll finish that quick pause to get us started. Hopefully that helped to center a bit. You know, this is the middle of the day. By the way, if this is your lunchtime and you need to eat, please go right ahead and do that. But often, you know, we are so distracted, and that's why I wanted to go into the focus today. There's so many things vying for our attention. And so I think it really helps to think of our meditation practices as a way to strengthen our attention. And I'll talk a little bit about that. That's the first section. But first, let's just ask, how is your practice going? Your daily or daily-ish practices. You know, we have two kinds. Just as a reminder, there's the formal practice. We'll do two of those today. We'll do a flashlight and river of thought meditation. We'll also do a loving kindness meditation. But then there's also the informal practices. One good one, I think, is to notice unpleasant and pleasant events. As I mentioned, the snow day we had yesterday. I mean, for me, it was a mix. It was beautiful. You know, for a while there was all in the trees and everything it was really beautiful. When I had to go out in it, take care of shoveling the walk in the driveway and all that stuff. And I actually got hit by a snowball falling from a tree branch. You know, so not so pleasant events associated with it. And then everything iced up. So good way to kind of think about, how do we react to those things? What's our initial reaction to pleasant and unpleasant events? Those are really good informal practices. And to realize that we can step back from our immediate reaction and choose to respond in a mindful way. Other informal practices are, you know, everyday things. We talked about these in the classes, you know, brushing your teeth, doing the laundry, washing your hands, all those kinds of things you can bring your mindful attention to and really pay attention to what you're doing while you're doing it. So those are the two basic forms of practice that we try to balance. So I'll just open it up. You can either unmute yourself and share, or you can put something in the chat if you'd like to share. How is your practice going? How are you getting some time? Is you finding it difficult to get some regular time in? And I know this kind of goes up and down, so I'll stop talking. Anybody want to share how it's going for them? Not every day, but from time to time. Well, good. So it's a good comment, and appreciate that. It is hard to do it every day, isn't it? It's even hard for me to do it every day, and I teach this stuff. But and I find myself sometimes falling out of the habit, like when there are things that change my routine. So I have to get back on track. It's like any habit that we have. Trying to stay in the moment more and not let my mind race ahead. Yeah, and so we will talk a little bit about mind racing thoughts that are going on. Actually, I'm doing another 6-week class that we're in the middle of. That's the one we're doing this week. It fluctuates day to day, and so so it fluctuates. So on the days when it's maybe hard to do a formal practice, those are good days to do the informal pauses. It's my first go-to under stress, even if I can do it every day. Good. Key point. That first practice we did, that first pause, was sort of a variation of what's called the 3-minute breathing space. You first ask yourself how you're doing. So you look at your thoughts, feelings, and body, and then you do some breathing. And that's a quick, good way to do something, especially when there's a stressor. And it can center you, it can calm you quickly, it can bring you to focusing in on your breath awareness. Been going well, better with the informal practice. Yep, that's often common for people. So don't forget some of the formal practices. Fell out of practice for a little bit, but just starting to get back into it. Good. And I think that's common for many of us. That happens. So thanks for those comments, folks. And I think we can see that it's a process for all of us, and which ebbs and flows. And so in the class that I'm doing, I built in sort of habit formation. So, making an intention to specifically do your practice at a specific time of day, maybe even putting it in your calendar or linking it to some other thing that you do habitually. So that's habit stacking. So when you make a cup of coffee or tea, you sit down and you do a brief 3 to 5 minute meditation, something like that. Try to find ways to link it so that you build the habit of mindfulness. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is the flashlight image. And this is from the book called Peak Mind from Dr. Mishi Jha. And she is a researcher, a neuroscientist who researched what are the best ways to help high stress occupations like military, police, fire, how to help them keep their attention focused, even under high stress conditions. And it's pretty interesting. She found that mindfulness practices were the most effective in doing that. And so she uses this flashlight image, and we'll do that in our first exercise, as a way to focus our attention. So as you can see here, when you point our attention, our flashlight of attention at something, that's where we're focused on. But as we know, it's very easily distracted. We get pulled and pushed and pinged and notified, and these days is just ridiculous how many times we can get our attention hijacked. So, but we can willfully point that flashlight where we need to, and in many cases it can be outward, something in the external environment or inward. And that's what we did in that first practice, to our thoughts, emotions, body sensations. But we do have control over that. So that's one of the good things. So the practice of refocusing, the basic mindfulness practice, when we get distracted, when thoughts come up, and we refocus back to our breath or our body, whatever the anchor is, that's strengthening that muscle of focus and attention. Now we know the kryptonite is stress, poor mood, and threat. These are all things that we're all under all the time. And these are things that erode our attention, and they make it harder to stay on track and focused. So just keep in mind that when we're going through stress or there's a stress trigger, that may be something that carries us away in terms of our thoughts, and we might start to obsess or ruminate about that stressful situation. Our mindful practices can help us come back to take us off the rumination and come back to staying focused. Same thing with poor mood. We begin to get into negative thought patterns, and in fact, that's very common. We have a negativity bias. We know that. It's easy to stay focused on negative thoughts rather than positive thoughts. So even focusing in a routine way on positive things helps take us off the negative. And then there's threat. There are lots of threats that used to be many more real threats to our physical safety. When we were hunter-gatherers, for example. Nowadays, our threats are coming. Just turn on the news, and there's many threats that we feel, sometimes secondarily or maybe vicariously, but still they're threats nonetheless, and they can really bring up the fight or flight response and make it hard to stay focused. So we'll use the flashlight exercise, but also even just simple mental noting when you're breathing. So all this really is saying to yourself mentally as you breathe in on the in breath, in and then out. So that's one way to stay on track. And then when you get distracted, just come back, and then the next in breath you say in and out. Or you can use other words, for example, calm as you breathe in, and then focus, or whatever words you like as you breathe out. Studies have actually shown that both the flashlight image and mental noting can really help our concentration. And like with anything, the more we do it, the more we strengthen that, the more we are able to stay focused and come back from distraction. We know that it's very common for many of us. 47% of the time, the study shows that our mind is wandering. It's not focused on the task at hand. That's a lot. And so if we can regain some of that and really stay more focused, just think about the benefits from that. So our first practice is going to be based again on that Peak Mind book. We'll use the image of the flashlight, and then we're going to transition into thoughts, because there are lots and lots of thoughts. Something like, they estimate we have about, believe it or not, 60,000 thoughts a day. I don't know how they got that, but that's what I've heard. And many of them are negative thoughts or sticky thoughts, repetitive thoughts. So that's our conditioned thought pattern. And that sets us up for, automatically responding to stressors or to other things in a conditioned way. Our mindfulness practice really helps us not do that, helps us be able to experience things just as they are, directly. And it helps us to be able to respond in ways that we choose rather than those conditioned patterns. So let's start. We'll do our first practice today. So it's Valentine's Day, so be good to yourself. Like, find a position that's really nice and comfortable. Hopefully you have a comfortable chair or surface or way to sit. or it might even mean standing or even laying down. But whatever it is, find a good, comfortable position for yourself. Now, you also want to be in a position that's relatively alert and awake so that you can follow along and stay present. So, finding that nice balance between comfort and alertness, relaxed attentiveness. Now, let's also set an intention to put aside any unnecessary thoughts about plans, agendas, tasks, all that stuff. Put it aside. It's going to be there when we're done. And we can take care of that stuff later. For now, this is like a gift to yourself. This is a Valentine's gift to yourself, taking this time for yourself to just relax and be right here. You may close your eyes if that helps. Or if you'd prefer, you can just simply lower your eyelids to have a soft gaze down in front of you. And just start by breathing and follow the breath. Just follow the breath moving at its natural pace, not controlling it. And tune into breath-related sensations. Maybe feeling the air going in and out of the nostrils, down the windpipe. Maybe the sensations of your lungs filling up and your chest expanding. Maybe the belly moving in and out. Choose one area of the body where you feel the breath most easily, most directly. Choose that to focus on. And we're going to direct and maintain our attentional focus here like a flashlight with a strong, bright beam. So just continuing to breathe, keeping that flashlight focused on that one point. Following the breath as it flows in and out. And then all you have to do is notice when your flashlight has moved. Move to something else, and then move it back to the next breath, redirecting it back. Following the breath with that flashlight. Now you may notice when thoughts or sensations arise, or a sudden reminder that something you need to do, or maybe a memory floating up, might even be an itch or some other body sensation. When you notice that your flashlight has been pulled away, redirect it back to your breath. Nothing special to do other than this simple, gentle nudge that acts supportively to move the flashlight back. Keeping our attention on the breathing, we're now going to broaden the awareness. Maybe aware of sounds. Realize there's a sound of the dog barking in the background. Maybe there may be other sounds too. And so, but broadening our awareness, so we're not selecting any target object, but we're going to now use the metaphor of the mind being like a river. And you're standing on the riverbank, watching the water flow by. So imagine your thoughts, memories, sensations, emotions, whatever arises, as if they're flowing past you. Notice what appears there, but don't engage with it. Don't fish it up, chase it, or elaborate on it. Just let it flow by. The river will keep flowing. There isn't anything you can do or need to do about it. Just we're kind of watching it in an open monitoring way. Your job is simply to observe that flow at a little bit of a distance. We're on the river bank, so we're not following that. We're just watching it go by. Now, for a little bit of troubleshooting, if you have difficult letting things pass you by, you can always come back to your breath as that anchor or home base. You can imagine the breath sensations now as a boulder in the middle of all that flowing water, that you can rest your attention on that stable, steady object. And then when you're ready again, broaden your attention and go back to that open monitoring standing by the river. Now let's let go of that image. Just rest for a moment. Just rest the mind, rest everything. Just relax. Maybe feel the breath. Maybe feel the body sitting. And when you're ready, as we begin to close the practice, slowly and gradually open the eyes, letting a little bit of light in. And feel free to move a little bit, shift a little bit, whatever is helpful as we finish. So sometimes people report that open monitoring as being a little more difficult, and it can be because the mind has a tendency to run amok. Sometimes people call it the monkey mind. But feel free to put into the chat what you thought about that. Curious to know what your experience of that whole exercise was. We started with the flashlight, so you can do, remember that's one way to train our focus. The open monitoring is a little bit more like using a floodlight. We're really zooming out and watching the thoughts. But it's kind of interesting because we can see the thought patterns, and we can sometimes notice what insights, what thoughts are going through the mind, what patterns of thinking. And sometimes we can notice some thoughts are helpful, some thoughts are not helpful. So we can begin to get some insight into what might be helpful. All right, good. So muscle tension in the neck and shoulders diminished. Excellent. It really helps to keep thoughts a bit more controlled. Yeah, I mean, it is a way to control the thoughts. I mean, one way to think of it is because sometimes thoughts seem uncontrollable, right? And they can almost feel like a waterfall or a like whitewater rapids of thoughts. And so it is a way, that's kind of a good way to put it, because we can't get rid of thoughts. We can't empty the mind, but we can sort of manage our thoughts. And that's kind of, I think, what you're talking about. Thought it was great. My mind kept watching things floating down the river. Good. That's the idea. Just watch. That's all we're doing, observing. Helps me think about the perspective shift when we're on the banks of the river versus getting into the thoughts themselves, right? Versus getting wet, and versus like really getting, and that's going to happen. I mean, sometimes we are going to get caught up in a thought stream or a very strong, real strong pattern of thinking, and that's going to happen. So don't worry about that. Let it happen. But then the trick is then to notice and then bring yourself back with the flashlight, for example, back to the present moment. I like watching I like watching my thoughts float by and appreciate the boulder help refocus when I start to wander. Yeah, that's a nice image. I agree. It's a nice image of something to hang on to. So great. Thanks for those. So the next, moving into why do we meditate? We talk about this before. There are lots of reasons, and lots of people to relax. We talked about focusing, kind of resetting, stepping back from stress, gaining insight. But the next part of today's class is about being better connected and in tune with others. Okay, so we know how important connection is. In fact, you may have heard there was the longest running study about um, happiness and well-being was done at Harvard and followed participants for like 80 years and over even a couple of generations, but followed participants, and they found that the most common and the most important factor to health, well-being, and happiness is social connection. And we know from experience going through the pandemic that being socially distanced or physically distanced from people was very, very difficult. We had to find other ways. We had to get creative. We also know that loneliness and social isolation are risk factors for poor health. And attention, what we've been talking about, this ability to focus, is one of the fundamental building blocks for all social relationships. So distraction equals disconnection. And I think this Dilbert cartoon says it all. And in our digital age, it's just happening all the time. So Dilbert says, studies say people are losing their ability to focus because of all the digital distractions. And the other guy there is looking at his phone, so he's not really listening. He goes, sorry, what? Then Dilbert gets beeped or pinged, and he's like, oh, hold on, got to take that. And the other guy's like, what were you saying? And Dilbert's, I don't know, probably wasn't important. So our communications can be easily sidetracked or completely derailed. So there is a listening exercise. We're not going to do this today, but it's something that you might try with a partner and just take 2 minutes per person. So one talks about just something, every day, like maybe it's about what you did last weekend or what you're planning for this weekend or what you thought about the Super Bowl or whatever it might be. One talks for 2 minutes and the other just listens. No talking back, just listening for the 2 minutes. And you listen with focus, you listen, and you'll notice there are things that distract you because you're thinking about, what are you going to say? You're thinking about maybe something, really a stray thought pops in. And then you switch roles and you talk and the other person listens. And again, you just notice what that was like. And you notice what was it like to really listen, but also what was it like to be listened to. So it's just a good little exercise to give a try. If we were in person, it'd be a lot easier to do that. But you might try that with somebody. It's a good exercise. And then another thing that we can connection practice is about sort of, you can do this now, just as a quick practice. Just bring to mind somebody in your life that you really appreciate and feel grateful for. Could be a coworker, a family member, a loved one, could even be a pet. Could even be someone who's deceased or a fictional character or a religious or historical character. But somebody that you appreciate and are grateful for. And just bring that into mind and bring that person into mind and even maybe into your heart. Sort of savor that, why you appreciate them. And see if you can notice where you feel it in your body. Do you get a sense of anything in the body as you bring that person, as you tune in? Maybe it's a warmth, maybe it's a feeling in the chest or the heart, maybe it's the shoulders relaxed a little bit, maybe you smile. And then maybe think about, can you let them know? You can let them know in your thoughts, and we're going to actually do that. But how can you let them know? You might send them a note, an email, a text, a card of gratitude, or even just write down for yourself your gratefulness. Okay, so that's the practice. You've had your eyes closed, didn't have to, but if they are, that finishes just a quick idea about connection. So going to go through the next couple slides pretty quickly but I want to make enough time for our last practice. So self-kindness, self-compassion is so important. The research really shows this. Kristen Neff is one of the researchers who looks at this a lot, and she even has found that self-compassion is even more important than self-esteem. The more we can treat ourselves like our best friend, the more that we can be easy and supportive of ourselves and kind of be our own coach in a way that is better for our health and happiness and well-being. And this quote here, talking about making space, and this is, I think, where mindfulness comes in, making space for ourselves, giving ourselves permission to let go of self-judgment for a few minutes and approach our need with more compassion. Research shows that when we practice self-compassion, we're less likely to feel anxious and stressed, more likely to feel happy and resilient. And this can actually even regulate our heart rate, reduce inflammation, and improve sleep. Pretty amazing. Oops, I went to push the wrong button there. Sorry. Okay, so 3 elements of self-compassion. Again, I'm going to send you the slides. So pretty quickly, self-kindness, so doing things that are taking care of ourselves. Common humanity, realizing that even when we're going through our own struggles or our own stressors or whatever they may be, everybody's going through something. We're not in this completely alone. That pretty much the human race all struggles at some point with something. And it kind of helps to know that we're not alone, that there are other people, even maybe other people going through very similar things. That's why people get together in support groups, right? In 12-step groups and things like that, and have common bonds with others going through similar shared circumstances. So very important to realize. And mindfulness, being aware and being non-judgmental, that part of mindfulness, accepting ourselves as we are, not being self-critical, but being aware of what's going on, being aware of those thoughts where we may start to be critical of ourselves, stopping that, and then introducing some language, which we'll do in the last exercise. So let's do that. This will be a loving kindness exercise. It is a standard traditional practice that is done in insight meditation or mindfulness meditation. And it involves thinking of somebody, other people in our lives, and sending them messages of care and kindness, but also to ourselves. And another thing to mention is that an attitude of friendliness towards ourselves is a key predictor. If we're the more kindly, or the more kind we are to ourselves, the more friendly we are to ourselves, the more accepting we are to ourselves, generally means that we'll be able to continue with our mindfulness practice. So it's really an important part of what we do. So we're going to start with what's called heart breathing. So first, find that position, get comfortable, get relaxed, take a moment to settle. Let the body settle into the chair, feel your body as it finds that comfortable, relaxed position. Be really kind to yourself. Really take a moment to get really comfortable. Relax the shoulders, relax the jaw, relax the mind. Let the body sink in. And become aware that you are breathing. And the miracle of this to keep you alive. You don't have to do anything special with the breath. Just let yourself breathe. And as you breathe, notice that there is a quality of expansion that occurs. It's very natural. So as you breathe in, you can feel the lungs fill and expand. And as you breathe out, you can feel them settling and dissolving. Now, for another breath, imagine that you can breathe right into the center of your chest, almost as if your nostrils were on your chest or over your heart. Kind of a strange image, but imagine breathing in right into your heart area. And as you breathe in, sense that quality of expansion deepen as if the breath were nourishing and strengthening the heart. And as you breathe out, sense that breath exhaling almost as an offering from your heart. Do that for a few breaths. And you can imagine or bring to mind that something that brings you strength or inspires you. For some, this may be a religious aspect or faith. For others, it's your deepest motivation, kind of the big why or your purpose for what you do, who you are. For some, it may be a specific individual or your kids or somebody you're taking care of. Or it could be thinking about the community that you're part of. Really, it's anything that brings a sense of strength or inspiration or positive motivation. And you're actually imagine breathing it into your heart. And it's strengthening and nourishing your heart. And as you breathe out, you're sending that intention or motivation out into the space around you, or even to that individual, to a certain person, sending it out to them. So maybe you've got somebody in mind, maybe you're thinking about somebody, a person maybe we thought of before, or somebody else, somebody that you're close to, and we're going to send them this loving kindness messaging. Thinking of them, we're going to say, may you be safe, may you be healthy and happy, may you be able to respond to stress and ups and downs, may you live with ease, may you find purpose and meaning. Send them those thoughts of care and kindness. May you be safe and happy and healthy. Imagine them receiving this too. And may you be better able to deal with life's ups and downs. May you live with ease. May you find purpose and meaning. And now include yourself in that. Saying to yourself, may I be safe and happy and healthy. May I be better able to deal with stress and life's ups and downs and live with ease. May I find purpose and meaning. And then include any others that you wish to include. Could be people you're close to at work or family or friends, just whoever comes to mind. Could be in a group of people if you want to kind of include a number of people together. May you all be safe and happy and healthy. May you all be able to deal with stress and life's ups and downs, and may you live with ease. And may you all find purpose and meaning. And just kind of rest in these thoughts of kindness and well-being and care and compassion for a moment. And before we close, maybe taking a nice full deep breath, coming back into the body, connecting with the chair and feet on the floor. And again, when you're ready, opening the eyes and slowly kind of transitioning back. And you might try this, you might try integrating this into your mindfulness practice, some sort of loving kindness practice. They're out there. They're on the apps. If you use an app, I have a link. Those are the phrases, but I do have a link here when I send these out. There's a similar meditation. And also, how will you keep this going? How will you keep your practice going? Maybe you came up with a couple of more things ways to build your habit, to keep your mindfulness practice going. There are a couple of other things. We talked about listening and relationships and connecting. There's a couple of really good YouTube links here. The Sacred Art of Listening by Tara Brach and Deep Listening by Frank Ostaseski. There are other practices, self-compassion practices, also on YouTube. Links here. We do remember, maybe some of you have tried, there are a new app through EFR. There's the link there. If you haven't, that's where you sign up. It's an app. It's free through our program, and has live meditation, mindfulness practices, and on demand. There's a whole range of different activities that you can use. And there's even I think there's a reminder feature that sends you a notification to remind yourself to meditate. And of course, we're still doing the phone meditations, so keep those in mind, and more than welcome to join at any time with those. So that's it for today. Any last questions? Anything? Let me say before we close, I do send these out. Now, I keep a list on the invite, but if you signed up on LMS and you want to make sure you get the slides and the recording link, put that in the chat and I'll make sure I add you to that. So if you're not sure, just put your name in and I'll check. Just make sure if you want to get the follow-up email that I'll send out later today. All right, so let me stop the share. And any questions?
I have a question, but
Yes.
I tried to sign up a little later for the refresher course that you were offering the classes.
Yes.
I'm on wait list. Is there a chance you're going to add another class?
Oh, you mean the not the refresher, but the 6-week mindfulness class?
Yes.
Yes. I don't have anything set in terms of planning, but if we're tomorrow would be the 3rd class. I can actually include you if you still want to do that.
If it's still, if I haven't lost anything from missing